Welcome back to Build Your Empire Through Real Estate. I'm your host, Alexis Lekas, and today I have a dual special guest coming all the way from Cumming, Georgia, Nick and Miriam. Thank you guys for being here.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
I love it. I would say introduce who you guys are with, but I love the neon sign in the background that does it for you.
It does. We are sitting in our podcast room, actually. We designed the room specifically for it.
I love it. Very cool. Do you guys have a lot of agents who use it?
A fair amount. They use it more for short form, things like that, not as much long form. But it does get a variety of use on a weekly basis. That's for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Well, for those that are listening on Spotify and cannot see the neon sign, both Nick and Miriam are from, like I said, Cumming, Georgia, and they're with KW Community Partners. And they are both long-term in real estate. Miriam specifically, MCA Market Center Administrator there for 15 years. And Nick, you've been in real estate for a while, but you've been the team leader there for 1 year.
Correct. Yeah, I've been in real estate for about 10 years now. Was in different various leadership roles at other brokerages over the course of the last 10 years, but specifically as a team leader at KW for the last year.
Love it. Awesome. Well, I am going to introduce both of them, and I'll just go ahead and jump right in. And obviously, if I forget anything, you let the listeners know, right?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Nick's introduction to leadership started during his time in the United States Marine Corps, where he served as a squad leader for many years. Nick accepted a position with an in-town luxury boutique, recruiting their agents and soon advancing to vice president of sales. Nick eventually left that organization and went on to become the assistant team leader at Keller Williams North Atlanta. And after serving as the assistant team leader there, Nick sold real estate and managed dozens of institutional flips before stepping into the full-time team leader / president role at Keller Williams Reserve in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. When the opportunity arose for him to bring his leadership expertise back home to Georgia, he accepted the position of team leader at Keller Williams Community Partners, and found himself in perfect alignment. Nick, welcome.
Yep. I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. And Miriam, who's been the MCA there for 15 years, is originally from Athens, Georgia, and graduated from, is it LaGrange College in 1992? Perfect. With a Bachelor of Business Administration. She has worked in real estate since 2005 and later joined Keller Williams in 2010 as the Market Center Administrator. She was inducted into the MCA Hall of Fame with Keller Williams in 2025. Miriam is married with 2 children, Madison 27 and Graham 16. She enjoys traveling to the beach, watching sports, especially when her son's playing, exercising, reading, and spending time with her family outside of work. I love it. Miriam, welcome as well.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, many of our listeners are with Keller Williams, whether agents in leadership, et cetera, but a lot of our listeners are outside. So Market Center Administrator, we haven't had one on yet. So I'm super excited to be able to pick your brain. But tell those that maybe aren't with Keller Williams, what does an MCA mean and how important is it to be inducted into the Hall of Fame? Because that is pretty darn cool.
So I enjoy being an MCA. Basically, I handle anything that has anything to do with money. So anything with the financials, budgeting, closings, contracts, earnest money, anything like that, 1099s, all that kind of good stuff. And I've been doing it, like I said, here for 15 years and before that in different roles as well with other companies.
I love that. And you guys have an agent count of 274 currently. And you guys are, let's see here, number 1 in the Southeast region for listings sold volume and number 3 in the company. So I'm assuming you're busy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, for the amount of volume that we do, for her to be a one-person band is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me, and I want to hear from both of you, tell me one success each of you have had in this role that you attribute to your overall success within the Market Center.
I think just for me, it's being focused on agents, the agents that we have. It's a really good core community here of the agents and the culture that I was blessed to step into. And I think that's a huge contributing factor to the office as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're lucky, right? I just had somebody on last week who stepped into a situation that was not culturally, right, divine, if you will. And it takes a lot of work to turn things around. So that's great to hear that you had an established culture that you were walking into, Nick. Miriam, what would you say?
I would say that I've worked really hard along with the rest of the leadership team to keep our expenses low. So that's one thing that I really attribute to our profitability is keeping the expenses as low as possible.
Yeah, I love that. And it looks like you guys are number 2 most profitable in the Southeast region, in which your market center falls, and number 8 in the overall company. And again, as a reminder for those that are just starting to listen to the podcast, there's over 1,000 market centers that includes. So that is pretty incredible. So what else in terms of Miriam, I'd love to hear from you. Profitability, number 8 in the entire company, and you say you're overseeing expenses. How are you gauging what threshold, if somebody was running a large team or a brokerage, what threshold are you overseeing, or what are you looking for?
Mm-hmm. So through our budgeting process, we really look, across the board at everything, our rent, our salaries, all of our little expenses. So we really take a look at that, and we are going through and comparing those prices on a constant basis just to make sure that we're keeping our expenses as low as possible. So the other thing that I'm constantly saying is if it's not in the budget, we don't get it. Or if we can get it sponsored, that's great. So they hear me say that a lot. I have to kind of laugh and smile about it because that's how we are where we are. A lot of it is attributed to that.
Yeah.
I'll piggyback off that, having been in, this is my 3rd KW market center kind of coming in, it was explained to me as the team leader, I'm really running the largest team within the office, right? It is the office itself. So I look at it and go, okay, well, if we go back and look at 30, 30, 40, this office is really hitting a 40% profit of company dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really holding that model true all the way, even on the brokerage level.
And why don't you go ahead, and for those that are listening, why don't you explain that model a little bit more in depth?
Yeah. So you're looking at, 30, 30, 40. It's a matter of where all of your money should be going, right? Whether it's to your overhead or whether it's the cost of sale. And 40% of it should be profit, right? If you're looking at a traditional KWT model. And I think running the largest team in the office, we're hitting those numbers pretty close, even at 274 agents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's a goal in terms of growth for you guys, and being one of the largest teams, I would suspect, in your entire area, Nick, right? As the rainmaker, if you will, of the market center. What is your growth goal? What are some of your goals in terms of growth?
So I think it's not only agent count, that's certainly one, but I think also we do a really good job of looking internal and helping our agents grow. And that's kind of our number one focus, is helping the agents that we have here grow before we're really looking outward to external growth as well.
Yeah, I love that. What do you guys do specifically to help your agents grow internally? I'm sure those listening would love to hear maybe some of your training specialties, training calendar, etc.
Yeah, I think one of the keys here in our office, I kind of attribute to being kind of a little bit of the old South, where you walk across the street and ask your neighbor for an egg or a cup of sugar, and they're willing to kind of share that without wanting anything in return. I think a lot of our really culture here in the office is the agents doing that. They're sharing what they're doing that's winning. They're sharing their successes and allowing all of their peers to pick up on that and really duplicate that. You get some offices where people go, okay, this is what I'm doing and I want to hold it close to the vest. Our culture is share it in abundance and let everybody else go, because we have enough market share here for everybody to take their own fair share of.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one thing that both of you do consistently that has gotten you to this place today?
I think one thing that I've learned to do, especially in my role, just with the amount of growth that we've had in agents, the amount of growth we've had in closings, volume, all of the above, is basically to time block. And I know that's kind of old school, something that people talk about, but I really stand true to it and stick to it. I time block my day, I time block my month, and lay everything out. And that's how I get everything accomplished.
I love that. Before we hear from Nick, I have got a question for you, because I've worked in hundreds of firms, and I love what you are preaching. And I will tell you right now, an MCA that time blocks is not something you hear every day. So what does your average day look like for an MCA listening right now? Or maybe an OP, an owner who's thinking, I need to help my MCA time block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So, usually first thing in the morning, I spend some time going through my email, kind of looking at what my day looks like. I do all of my pay at closes, earnest money, closings first thing in the morning. If I have any appointments, I usually try to do them around 10 or 2. That kind of breaks up my day pretty good. It gives me time later in the afternoon to do any things that kind of pop up. And I also usually, at the end of the day, I take a look at what my day is going to look like for the next day and kind of plan all that out and lay everything out in order that I want to do it.
I love that. And who are your typical appointments with? Leadership agents? Who is your appointments typically with?
Both. It really just depends. Sometimes new agents when they're coming in. I do help some with the onboarding process. So I do meet the new agents that are coming in, sometimes having, specific appointments with agents when they have anything that they need to go over as far as their numbers. And also with leadership. We do have leadership meetings as well.
I love that. So I hear you're doing some coaching of your own agents around some of their numbers, which I think is great. And we don't see enough, right? Who better to do it than the numbers gal?
Right.
That's so great. And then obviously your leadership as well. That is so phenomenal. Nick, what would you say you do consistently that's gotten you here?
Focusing on the agents that are here. I think that's the consistent thing is where I can really figure out where to dive in. How can I help them grow? Because when they grow, we grow, right? So for me, that's been a big focus for me, especially coming in here as a new office. It's really getting to know an established group and where can I come alongside them in their business and really help them grow and hit the goals that they want to hit. Yeah,
I love that. Do you do anything particular that you can share with those that are listening when it comes to helping your people grow that you're just really proud of?
Staying in touch with them. I think that's really the biggest thing. When you have 275 agents, it's hard to really stay in touch. And I've got to be very deliberate about maintaining a relationship because oftentimes they can get lost if they're not up front and center.
Yeah, I love that. Staying in touch with your people. That is so powerful. Are you the one in the training room? Are you doing a lot of the trainings or are you staying in touch with them like phone call, text? Or are you the one also leading a lot of the trainings?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
All of the above, and all of our staff is very involved in that. We try to be very intentional about it, whether it's a phone call, a note card, making sure that when agents are coming in and out that we get up and go out into our common areas and speak to them and acknowledge them and make sure that they know that we're here to help them.
Yeah. And you mentioned your staff, right? Our executive leadership team. One question I get asked by a lot of team leaders and OPs is, at what point do I know who to bring on and when? Right? We've got the MREA for agents building a team, but there isn't really a one size fits all for office structure, if you will. Or if you grow, if we've got a top agent listening right now, if you grow some mega team, right, that many market centers are considered. So tell me who's on your staff and just a little bit of what they do and how did you know when to grow, bring on, let go, etc.?
I'd say we run very lean especially compared to a lot of market centers here in the area. For our size, we might have half the staff that a lot of market centers do. So director of first impressions, director of agent services, the two of us, OP, and really we got one guy that kind of heads our mentor program, and that's it.
Okay. And the one that heads your mentor program, I'm assuming a licensed agent who's doing their own production.
Correct. Yeah. I don't even really consider him part of staff, but he does run that program.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Awesome. I always say it's all roses, right? Yes. No challenges ever. No, we wouldn't be in business if we didn't, right? So tell the listeners, what's the biggest challenge that you've had in your roles and how did you overcome it?
I'll go first. I think this is a common one for people in my role for MCAs because I handle all the receivables. So we've got 274 agents that are paying a monthly bill. So making sure that we get all of that money brought in. And my goal is I don't close out the month unless we have all that accounted for. So I take it very seriously and I'm very systematic about what I do. Sending out bills on the 10th. They're due on the 20th, charging cards on the 21st, late fee on the 25th, and then I'm emailing, calling, and then I have another staff member that helps me if I need any additional help with it. But we very closely keep track of all of that, but it is a challenge.
Yeah, right. With 275 agents, absolutely, it is. And you said you don't close out the month until it's all collected. What about the off chance that you just can't get a hold of somebody?
So If there is an off chance that something is hanging out there, there's a plan. So we talk to that agent, we know what their situation is, and we come up with a plan of what that looks like. We don't let anybody go more than 90 days past due. And usually with those people, there is some type of conversation about what the plan is to get that back on track.
Yeah, so some sort of plan and agreement. And then at the 90-day mark, assuming payment isn't made, it's, hey, we've done all of what we can. And then it's yep, okay, so it's time to find a different market center to align yourself with. Okay,
Yep.
Great. Yeah, so it can be a challenge, but you definitely, what I hear repeatedly is you guys have your systems dialed in.
Yeah.
We do.
Yes,
Yep.
I love that. And that's why you can run lean and mean, right? Nick, challenge. What was the biggest challenge you've had in this role? How did you overcome it?
So I think stepping into this office, the biggest challenge was they had lost 69 agents in the 5 months prior to me stepping in. And so I think the biggest challenge is making sure that was stopped, right? That we were at the floor was the floor, and that we could then begin to grow from there. So I think the biggest challenge was really stopping that flow of agents leaving for their various reasons, and making sure that we had a really good retention on the agents that were here.
Yeah, I would love to stay here for a moment, because I think retention is a conversation, as I'm sure you guys know, that in leadership we get the opportunity of having every single day. And it is a conversation that we have over and over and over again. It doesn't matter with what team leader or owner, quite frankly, in what industry across the country. What did you do specifically, Nick, to quote unquote stop that bleeding? What were you super intentional around? Because I think that's some big takeaways listeners would love to hear.
Yeah, I think it was re-recruiting the existing agents and making sure that they're bought into and resold on why KW, why here, what is that value that they may or may not have forgotten over their time with the brand. I think for me, that was a big one, was just re-recruiting our own agents.
Yeah. What does re-recruiting look like for you?
Literally, I think I went and sat down with the majority of the office and literally had that. It was a way for me, as me coming on board, to meet them, know them, understand their business. It's a basic business consultation. It was really realigning them, kind of getting them into a consulting conversation, and really meeting them where they were at.
Yeah. What I heard you say, and I think so many people get lost in this, is it's a business conversation. You kept it about them, their business, right? So you did essentially a needs analysis, and then essentially it's like, hey, here are some of the holes. Here's how we, the Market Center, KWRI, right, can fill those holes. And so what I love is you didn't go in there and sell and tell and spew why you guys are so amazing and how you're going to come in and save this day, right? It was really like, let me get to know you and your business, and let's go from there, which I love. And I think sometimes gets lost. We forget to keep it about them, the agent themselves. Yeah.
And I'll even say that's a lot of the feedback that I've gotten from the agents over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months, is they appreciate being able to have almost an agent to agent conversation that's being very intentional on my part about being a consulting conversation, but they can view it as an agent to agent conversation in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of times the agents lose that with some team leaders because it's been so long since they've been in production, or they never really had a strong production base before taking on the role. And so I think that's something that our agents here have been appreciative of being able to have the conversations around the real world and somebody that can that's lived those challenges in recent history.
Yeah. And a lot of our team leaders, in fact, some of the most successful ones, never sold a house to begin with, right? What would be your advice from your perspective to maybe a team leader who isn't as successful yet and doesn't have that background in sales? How would you coach them to be able to relate to their agents from a retention standpoint?
Just because they're not doing the transaction doesn't mean they can't get into the transaction. As an agent, I learned 90% of what I know from other agents, right? Not from sitting in a classroom. So I would encourage them, go be there, consult with your agents, learn the details as they're going through the struggles of a transaction. You can learn from them as being a fly on the wall from it, right? And you can take that knowledge and then in turn internalize it and have that conversation with other agents.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice. Miriam, did you want to add anything to that at all?
No, I just think with the retention piece of it, I think Nick has done a great job getting to know a lot of our agents. I think he's very intentional about spending time with the agents that we currently have and also trying to meet other agents from outside of the company to bring in. And I think that has made a big difference. And the agents want to feel like somebody cares about them. That's a big part. Like that you want to get to know them, that you know about their personal life, that you know about their family, you know what they have going on. And we try to be very intentional about doing that. And we really do feel like a family here. So we've kind of developed that type of atmosphere here in our market center.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely culture and retention sounds like a huge priority and piece of the conversation for both of you, which I'm sure is trickling down into your staff,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. Again, a lot of systems conversations in this podcast today, right? What would you say your biggest system driver is that you attribute to your recruiting and growth results? So we've talked a lot about retention. Tell me some of the system drivers you guys rely heavily on there.
I mean, I don't know. It's everybody kind of staying in their lane and kind of knowing what to do. And I mean, we do K-score, right? So we get a fair amount of passive because that's been running for a while. Outside of that, I mean, I think it's systems. It's looking at what are our different streams of agents and kind of where they come from on a recruiting side, and making sure that every one of those gets hit on a regular basis. And as well, you know, we're even starting to maybe layer in a little bit of AI and incorporating some new stuff. So I think even as technology is changing, we're starting to kind of change and tweak some of our systems.
Yeah, I love that. Miriam, did you want to add anything there?
No, I mean, I just think probably from a growth and recruiting standpoint, we like he was saying, you know, we use a lot of different kind of platforms. We, you know, agent referrals, you know, those types of things are important. So I think there are a lot of different things that we kind of put all together to make that happen.
Yeah. And you guys have mentioned a few times you run pretty lean and mean on the leadership side. Nick, are you the one responsible for running the K-score play, or is that somebody else in your world?
Agent services.
Okay, great. Agent services. And how many agents would you guys say, on average, rough numbers, you're kind of bringing in, grossing per month through K-score now that you've had it for a while?
3 to 5.
3 to 5. How long have you guys had it? I'm sure some would.
Pre-me.
Oh, it was before Nick. So probably we got it right when it came out 4 years ago, maybe. I'm just guessing. It's been a few years. Mm-hmm.
It's been a few years. Okay.
Yeah,
okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some good, that's a good ROI though, right? And speaking of which, Miriam, I'd love to ask, on the tracking side with the numbers, how do you measure ROI on something?
Well, that's a great question. One that I probably need to think about for a minute. I mean, I guess I'll look at, like, for example, K-score, because we're paying for that every month. So, you know, definitely looking at, and we do track that. So we do anything like that we are investing money in, we do try to track it, especially if it's something new. And our OP is very big on she's more than willing to try something new. She's more than willing to invest in something, but we give it a time frame. We give it a start time frame. We say, hey, we're going to do this for 90 days. We're going to do this for 6 months. And then we're going to take a look at it and see if that is totally worth our investment on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Different metrics in terms of investment per investment, or what is invested in, right? Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So you guys are doing a pretty good job at sitting down and actually looking over the numbers. It sounds like pretty regularly. How often?
We do. We look at them every month, daily, really. I mean, I'm looking at them daily. Nick and I can see the same things in command, so he's looking at them as well. He and I are having those conversations about what those numbers look like, what our recruiting numbers look like, what is our net number, what is our gross, where are we on company dollar, what is our goal for the month. So we're very close on that. And I do a flash report every week that I send out to leadership and also to all of the investors, so that everybody's on the same page as far as where we are and where we're tracking throughout the month.
Yeah, I love that. And I've noticed when I was in the role, flash report, huge, right? Every week,
Mhm.
me, the OP, co-team leader, MCA, we all got it, right? Broker in our case, an OP. What do you guys track on that flash report? Because I've had a lot of team leaders, I think a lot of market centers don't do the flash report anymore or as often
Mhm. Mhm.
from what I've kind of seen. So what are you tracking on a weekly basis that all of those people on your staff are getting?
Right. So it's a lot of information all on one page. And I break it down weekly. We look at listings taking, contracts written, closings, company dollar, projected company dollar, agents in, agents out, appointments held, appointments booked. And then we project out company dollar for 4 months. And we do have a place where we show where we are year to date on owner profit and what our projection is based on where we are at that time during the month.
Love that. I love that. Nick, anything you'd like to add there in terms of reporting and ROI?
No, I mean, that pretty much covers everything that we're looking at on a regular, consistent basis. I think with where the market's been, my go-to point that I look at is company dollar and really making sure that that's kind of staying where it needs to stay. Our local market here has definitely shifted. And we've been able to kind of maintain hitting the same numbers we hit last year, even though the local market is not there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was going to ask you, how's your market there? I think a lot of our listeners are interested. At least I get that question often, depending on the state, right? Do you see other people or other clients in other states, right? How is their market? Is ours the only one? Are we feeling it? So it sounds like, yeah, you guys have felt a bit of a shift.
We have.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, where do each of you, if we were sitting here a year from now, we were approaching Q4 of 2026, and I asked both of you where the market center was, you said, Alexis, it's fantastic. We're absolutely crushing it. What would you both have to accomplish in your own right for you to say that?
I think for me, it comes down to agent count and hitting the goals that we have. I think that's what it comes down to because that trickles down. But the other side of that for me is also our percentage of cappers, getting that and increasing that number as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Mhm.
Miriam, what about you?
I think it's definitely the focus on keeping expenses low and where we are. I'm always looking at that. And as far as owner profit, those are two of the big things that I'm looking at. And we also spoke about internally our agents. There is a focus for us to get agents into more production. So agents that aren't doing as much business or get people up to the next level of production. So that would be, I think, a big indicator for us too.
I love that. And I have to ask because it's rare that we get an MCA, a numbers driven individual like yourself, on our calls. Speak to, if you don't mind, when somebody says, yes, and you can't budget your way to profitability, which I'm a huge believer of, and I'd love to hear your perspective. You can't budget your way to profitability.
I mean, I think you have to have a plan. For me, one thing that was told to me very early was if you put it in the budget, you're going to spend it. So we do keep it very lean. We only budget for what we truly are going to spend. There's no extras, there's no fluff. And we stick to it. So, I mean, I think you can. I think you've got to have a budget and you've got to have, a way that you're going to be planning to go and all be on the same page and stay as close to it as you can.
Yeah, I love that. So it's really ultimately finding the right budget.
Right.
So I'll chime in on this is because I came from a market center in Florida that had, we'll call it 150 agents, right, versus 275 here. And we're spending less on a budget here than on a market center with a lot less resources. So kind of when I compare the different market centers and I look back at my experience in Florida, I look at where we could have whacked expenses significantly and still run a much leaner machine and service the agents in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, you guys. Thank you. Last question I have for you as we wrap up here. It's one of my favorites. What's a piece of advice that you'd give to other brokerage owners, team leaders, mega agents, etc., that you guys ultimately can't live without? What would you like to leave us with in terms of advice?
I think one thing that I see, especially now after being in the role for 15 years and working with a lot of different people, it's very important to have the right team in your office and have the right people working together, and having, a good systems in place and having everybody on the same page. And we have that, and I think that makes a huge difference in our daily work, our environment here, what the agents see when they come in. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you being there for 15 years, you've seen a lot of different leadership turnover.
I have.
Right? Yeah, it's like all chuckles, right? You're like, can't even keep a straight face. Yes, there's been turnover. There's been turnover. One thing we're guaranteed in this world. And so you've seen it not work. You've seen what happens when you don't have the right people in the right seats on the bus. So I really take that, very seriously, that piece of advice, because from someone who's been in the same environment for 15 years and has seen different leadership come and go, that's a true testament of how important that is. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Nick, what about you?
I think as, in KW and our ecosystem, we're so focused on growth. I think that one piece of advice is don't forget about the people that you have. Grow through them, not around them.
Grow through them, not around them. That is so awesome. Such a big piece of advice that we have to remember. You guys have been wonderful today. So many golden nuggets. I can't even wait to share this with the public. Tell me, if people want more of you, where can they find you?
I should have asked my director of first impressions first, because she runs all of our social media. I'd say Google Nick Taylor, KW Community Partners. We've got an Instagram, we've got a Facebook, we've got a TikTok thing. There's even a YouTube channel.
KW Community Partners.
We're there.
I love it. And Miriam, anywhere in particular for you?
Nope, same place, KW Community Partners.
I love it. Well, we'll definitely make sure to go give you guys a follow. Thank you again for being here. Congratulations on all your success, and thank you for sharing.